Do your fingers or hands feel tired and tense after practicing? Do you struggle to practice for long periods of time because you get so incredibly tense and tired? If you answered yes to either one of these questions, it means that how you're playing the piano is completely wrong. In this video, I'm going to give you 4 different reasons why you might be having tension at the keyboard. And if you stick around to the end, I'm going to give you a few tips on how to avoid tension altogether. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So as you may have guessed, tension in your piano playing is bad, obviously. It makes it more difficult to be in control of the notes that you're playing, to play fluently and smooth. It also makes it really difficult to develop speed, which again, obviously is important to develop at the keyboard. Think about it like this. In a normal circumstance, tension in our bodies is an indication that something is wrong. For instance, maybe it means that we're overusing a particular muscle that needs some time to rest, or that we're doing something in a very awkward position, and the awkwardness is causing tension because it's not natural to our bodies. Think about picking something heavy up with your arms outstretched versus close to your body, or that we've actually injured something in our body, etc. This kind of tension comes more in the form of actual pain, which may or may not be something that you've experienced at the piano. But in any case, it is important to understand that tension is our body's way of telling us that we need to change something in order to continue what we're doing. Now, it's very common for people to try to resolve this issue by simply recommending that when practicing, you should take frequent breaks, say every 10 or 15 minutes. However, in my opinion, this is a very poor solution because it doesn't really solve the issue of tension. Why do we have tension? Why are we accumulating tension? And if you ever want to play for a longer period of time, say a recital or something of that nature, you'll just be out of luck because you haven't really solved the problem. Now, tension at the piano comes in many different forms. However, if we boil it down, there are 4 main causes of tension at the piano, which we will now discuss. Number 1 is muscle fatigue or overuse. This is probably the most common cause of tension and the most misunderstood. Allow me to explain. Most people assume that it is normal and even a good thing that the muscles get tired after playing the piano. They assume that this is akin to muscles getting tired after lifting weights, etc. However, the problem with this is that muscles in the arm, which control the fingers, do not really build strength in this way, but instead are able to move freely and easily within a certain range of motion without becoming tired or overused. Try this for a second. With the fingers in their most natural position, wiggle them freely up and down. Now try curling the fingers excessively and moving them up and down. Now try moving the fingers much higher and lower than before. What you will notice is that the second and third way feel much more tense and less easy and free, whereas the first way should feel completely effortless. Now we can begin to see that how we use our fingers at the piano is very important, and that it is possible to move the fingers in such a way that certain muscle groups will become overused and tired, but it is also possible to move them in such a way that these muscle groups will not be overused. Now, number 2 is alignment, which is probably the second most common cause of tension at the piano. And basically, this refers to the fingers, the hand, and the arm, and their relative positions to each other at the piano. For instance, playing with a low wrist or even a high wrist, or with the elbow sticking out to the sides, which is very, very common. This causes tension and puts certain parts of the playing mechanism in very awkward positions, which can cause muscles to tense up. It can also cause muscles to tense because certain parts of the hand or the fingers or the arm will be held in a very stiff position, rather than moving freely up and down the keyboard as we play. You can experience this by playing with the elbow held very stiffly out to the side versus making sure that the elbow is relaxed and behind the hand as you play. Number 3 is isolation. Isolation essentially happens when we isolate a particular muscle or muscle group and make it work extra hard, whereas the rest of the muscles are not doing anything at all. The most common form of isolation is isolating the fingers. This happens when we try to play with only the fingers instead of using the fingers, hand, and forearm together as a unit. Essentially, there are a couple reasons why this causes tension. The first is that the fingers are controlled by very small muscle groups in our forearm that will get tired and fatigued if we use them outside of their natural range of motion or use. Specifically, this can happen when we try to reach horizontally with the fingers too much rather than just shifting the arm to reach notes from side to side. You can experience the difference by holding the hand and the arm in a very still position and then playing an arpeggio, which will force the fingers to do all of the work of reaching the notes laterally. Then play the same arpeggio by allowing the arm to shift horizontally so that all the fingers have to do is go up and down within their normal range of motion. Number 4 is bad posture. Many people don't realize this, but having bad posture at the piano is a major cause of tension. There are 2 main reasons for this. The first is that it can cause the neck, shoulders, and back to get very sore and tired, which obviously will make it more difficult to sit and practice. But it will also hinder the movement of the muscles in the shoulders that connect to the muscles in the arms, which will make it more difficult to move the arms freely. It is important to understand that the muscles in the neck, shoulder, and back are connected and have a certain amount of interdependence with the muscles in the arms, and if one or more of them is tense, it can cause all of them to have a certain amount of underlying tension. Try sitting at the piano with very, very bad posture, as bad as you can make it. Then play something. It doesn't have to be complicated. However, the more technically demanding it is, the more you will notice the difficulty of the sitting position. Once you've done this, then try sitting correctly at the keyboard with good posture. Now play the same thing you just did with bad posture. You should immediately notice a big difference. Now, remember that thing I said in the beginning of the video, that tension is our body's way of telling us that something is wrong? Well, hopefully you can see from these examples that tension is not necessarily the byproduct of just simply playing the piano, but instead it's a byproduct of certain awkward, inefficient ways of using our body at the keyboard that we can avoid. Now that you understand what causes tension in piano playing, I'm going to share a few tips on how to avoid tension in your practice. The first tip is to make sure that you sit at the piano with good posture, always. You will find that you're more comfortable and can sit for longer periods of time, as well as you will be able to move more freely at the keyboard. The second tip is to make sure your fingers, hand, and arm are generally aligned at all times. It is especially important to make sure that the elbows are not held out stiffly to the sides and that the wrist is not too low. Instead, try to keep your arm at a right angle to the keyboard at all times and the wrist level with your arm. The third tip is to make sure to only move the fingers within their natural or normal range of motion, meaning that they are not abnormally curved or that you lift them too high when you practice. This can help ensure that you are not overusing the muscles that control your fingers. Alright guys, that's it for this one. I hope the information was interesting, helpful, and informative. If you have any questions or comments, make sure and put those down below. And if you haven't already done so, consider subscribing to our channel. We post new videos every single week, and we'd love to have you be part of our community. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.